Today, I want to show you some new Wi-Fi changes we released for Notecard. These changes were included in the 7.5.2 version of the Notecard firmware. So if you want to try them out for yourself, make sure your device is running at least that version, which, by the way, if you didn't know, you can actually update your Notecards directly in the in-browser terminal at dev.blues.com/terminal using this command. All right, let's talk about Wi-Fi. Before this release, there were two ways that you could set a Wi-Fi network on a Notecard. The first is you could use the card.wi-fi request. You could pass the SSID and password of your network, and you'd be good to go. The second, and I'll just show this in the docs, is you could press the AP button or the access point button on your Notecard Wi-Fi or your Notecard Cell Plus Wi-Fi. And what this would do, and I'll go ahead and just press it. I've got my Notecard Cell Plus Wi-Fi here. I'll press this button because what it's going to do is create a Notecard network. And I'll just drag my screen over so that you can see me try it out. You can connect to that network. And that's going to bring up this little captive page where you can set up a SSID password this way, or you can just choose between available networks that your device can find. This workflow works really well if you need someone like an installer or just someone in the field that has to configure whatever access point your device could use. You can just have them press a button, bring this up on their phone or their laptop or whatever, and set up the network that your device needs to use. And one last thing, if you haven't seen this feature before, both the name of the network as well as this logo are both configurable. So if you go to the card.wi-fi request, the name controls the name of the network that the Notecard creates, and org contains what goes where that logo goes. So those are the two ways you could previously set a network on a Notecard: the card.wi-fi request with SSID and password, and that access point button. Now, both those methods are still available and you can still continue to use them, but there are two new exciting ways that you can set networks on a Notecard. The first is that same card.wi-fi request, but with a new text argument. And the text argument takes a list of SSID and password combinations, which means for the first time, you can configure multiple networks that a Notecard can connect to, which can be really convenient if you have a device that needs to move between buildings or between facilities. And what the Notecard is going to do behind the scenes when you have multiple networks configured through any of these different ways is it's first going to do a scan of all available networks, everything that it can see. And if it detects multiple networks that it has the credentials for, it's going to start with the one that has the best signal strength and use that one by default. And then if there's any issues with that network, it can't connect, it doesn't have a backing internet connection or whatever, it'll then just start moving down the list to other networks that it can access. Okay, so the text argument is one of the two new ways you can set a network on a Notecard. The second is a new _Wi-Fi environment variable. The new environment variable uses the exact same syntax as the text argument, but because it's implemented as an environment variable, it gives you the ability for the first time to remotely configure which network a Notecard should use. And this one I want to demo. So I have my Notecard Cell Plus Wi-Fi here. I have no networks configured on this. That's why the terminal's giving me this hint. It really wants me to do so. But I'm going to start by working over cellular, and I'm going to queue up a very, very simple note, and I will sync that up to NoteHub. Because what I want to show, if I go into my project, is that when a session starts, which will happen when I do a sync in periodic mode, I get this _session.qo event, and the one that happens at the opening of a session includes this bit of metadata about the type of connection that was used. So in this case, it's going to be an LTE connection. So it's using cellular by default. And what I'm going to do now is go to my device and go to the environment variables. And I'm going to add a new one called _Wi-Fi, paste in my credentials, apply that. And then because this is an environment variable, I need to pull these changes down. I need to do an inbound sync on my device. So I will do a hub.sync. This is again going to happen over cellular. It doesn't yet have the Wi-Fi credentials. But what's going to happen is, because, I'm just grabbing my next request, because my Notecard is set to a card.transport of Wi-Fi-cell, That means every time the Notecard makes a network connection, it's going to attempt to do so over Wi-Fi if it has Wi-Fi credentials stored or available, and then use cellular as a fallback. So to this point, it's been doing cellular connections because it didn't have any Wi-Fi information, but because of this sync and the new _Wi-Fi environment variable, it just pulled down these credentials so that the next time I make a request, and I'll just queue up this exact same note, and I will sync it, now it's going to recognize that it has Wi-Fi credentials from the environment variable. It will use them, and if we see, you see it's already connected to my Wi-Fi network, so this sync should be really quickly. There it went ahead and completed. I'll go back to my events in this project. I have a new session start here, and if I look at the JSON, we should see that this happened over Wi-Fi. There we go. And the real power of this feature is because it is using an environment variable, you not only have the ability to remotely configure which network your Notecard is using, but you can also use the NoteHub API to build things like dashboards or scripts or whatever so that your users, your customers, your installers now have the means to remotely control the network that your Notecards are using. And so there you have it, some new Wi-Fi features for the Notecard that I think are really cool. If you do have any questions for how this works, feel free to reach out at our developer forum at discuss.blues.com. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest and greatest happening at Blues, sign up for our developer newsletter at dev.blues.com/developer-news.